So we are very happy to welcome them and welcome all of you. And I will just say about some things about Raghunath Prabhu, and then we can move forward for the session. Let me start the recording first. So
recording in progress.
Raghunath Prabhu is very senior member of our society, senior devotee, and he got his Harinam initiation in 1983, almost now it's 40 years back, and he served as a counselor in ISKCON Chowpatty from the inception of the counseling system till 2004, and he was the CEO of Bhaktivedanta Hospital for 5 years. Then he shifted his base from Mumbai to Amritsar in 2004 and serving a 400-member congregation since 2004 as a servant leader. And in that preaching center in Amritsar, many senior leaders like His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Gaur Krishna Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Asray Vaishnava Maharaj, Mahatma Prabhu, and many Prabhupada disciples and senior leaders have visited the center. And Prabhuji has conducted training workshop for the Sannyasa College for India and for GBC College for India and North America. And currently he is serving in Sannyas Ministry, TSCS committee from last 2 years. And professionally also Prabhuji is a very senior member and qualified coach, mentor. So we are very grateful for the Prabhuji to take out time from his busy schedule. And today our second speaker is Sri Vallabh Prabhu. Sri Vallabh Prabhu is also very known personality in ISKCON, very senior devotee. And he is vice president from his career wise, he is vice president in finance, Emirates Airline Dubai. For more than 30 years he is working in that line. And he is connected to ISKCON since 1984. So it's about 39 years, about 40 years journey now. He has over 30 years of experience managing a congregation, starting the congregation and successfully managing the congregation of about a few thousand people. And he is a congregational leader in ISKCON, temple president in ISKCON Dubai, Damodar Desh Yatra. He is co-emissary for Middle East to GBC. His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj and His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj to the GBC. So he is co-emissary for the Middle East. And he is chairman of Jayapataka Swami Maharaj's Shishya Samuh. He has been preaching in Damodar Desh, Dubai, and supported project from Damodar Desh. He leads a congregation of over 1,000 devotees and 5,000 total participants. And he is running a website on Kirtan Rasa also. Successfully completed 5 years of Kirtans. And so many activities they are doing in Dubai. Bal Utsav, Natpat Utsav, then Bhakti classes in Bal Kirtan Mela, then folk programs for the youth. Then he is giving training programs in Mayapur Institute also, teaching Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, ISKCON Disciples Course, Bhakti Vriksha, Damodar Arati, and everything. So he is here with us today, both of us. And now I will request Raghunath Prabhu to start the session. Okay, thank you, Raghunath Prabhu.
So, dear Maharajas and Prabhus, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Our topic today is congregation development. I'll be speaking for a relatively shorter time because Sri Vallabh Prabhu will have a lot to share because his yatra is also big compared to his yatra. You know, here in Amritsar, our yatra is like a tadpole. It's really small. But I'd like to basically emphasize how, you know, even Grihasthas and individual devotees can go and develop congregations in very meaningful way, in a very simple way, and gradually, you know, take it to scale. So, with the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, we just proceed. Now, I'll go on for about 10-15 minutes just discussing a couple of these relevant points about congregation development and its relevance. So, we all know that when Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, it was mainly a ashram based society. Most of the devotees were temple inmates, but over the past few decades, we are seeing that the society has vastly grown. And now you can say the devotee mix has changed a lot. There are more devotees living outside the temple than inside the temple. And therefore, we make a very strong case for uh, focusing or giving a disproportionate energy to developing congregations outside of the temple. Now, as a preamble, I would like to say that in our Vaishnava Parampara, two things have been going
Recording
on.
stop. Recording in progress.
Two things have been going on simultaneously for a very, very long time, almost a millennium. One is, of course, preservation of the Supreme Lord's teachings. That has remained unchanged in the Guru Shishya Parampara. Over generations and over millenniums, it has actually remained unchanged. And because of the sampradayas, we have actually got the unadulterated teachings through, Guru Shishya Parampara. What has changed, though, is the way these acharyas, they molded their preaching in order to reach out to the masses. And right from a very, very conservative society where preaching was mainly, restricted to interested devotees, it has now trickled down to the masses, even ordinary people. Now, very briefly, we'll just touch upon certain things. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was doing his earthly pastimes, even after taking sannyas, he could reach out only to those people who were serious devotees. That was his purpose, because he had given that responsibility then to unlock the, Krishna's love, profound love, to his direct disciples and to his, the future generations. Now, compare that with the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis were very, very erudite scholars, very, very distinguished in their, education, and they had read vast amounts of Dharma Shastra. But then, after scanning all that under the guidance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they actually conveyed these messages in very simple ways. For instance, Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they would go and brudge from door to door, to grihasthas and asking them, how much milk does your cow give? How much is your son married? Did you have good crop this year? Even settling family disputes. Now, one would wonder why such, Paramhansa devotees would be doing these ordinary things, but there was a very, very special mission. So they had to integrate the people into, the philosophy. And notice that each of these Goswamis and his disciples, they took a very special role. They actually had their own very special, areas to work on. And we all know that they started a Vishwa Vaishnav Raj Sabha, these Goswamis. And they had division of responsibilities. There were different people handling the standards of deity worship, the purity of preaching, and sometimes also conferring awards and recognition to, exalted devotees for their outstanding contributions. And wherever there was a division for challenging philosophies, wherever there were some oppositions coming from the Smarta Brahmins, there were very nice, very well thought of schools of devotees who were handling those things. We all know how Shri, Baldev Vidya Bhushan, he, on behalf of Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad, went to the Ramanandis in Galta and he did the session. Secondly, we know that Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, on the order of Shri Bhakti Vinod Thakur, went to Midnapur and he challenged those Brahmins and established the Vaishnavas as the highest section of society. So they were doing some very, very revolutionary things there. When it comes to Srila Prabhupada, we can see that his methods were very radical and revolutionary. Actually, he was at least 50, 100 years ahead of his time. And very often he also had to invoke the wrath of the traditional Gaudiya Vaishnav, school of thought. He, despite having very elaborate, commentaries from Vishwanath Chakravarti Pad, Baldev Vidya Bhushan, his own spiritual master Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada chose to write entirely a new commentary, specifically for the Western mind. And then he went on to make a international missionary body of very highly committed young men and women. Now, some of his, preaching activities horrified many of his contemporaries, and they were very vocal about that as well. He actually mixed the boys and girls in the same ashram, separately though, but in the same ashram, and then send them out in groups to do Sankirtan, okay, and come back and give a report of how things are working. He reduced the number of rounds from 64 to 16, which at that time was considered extremely revolutionary, and literally used every possible modern device he could, to spread Krishna consciousness. Relentlessly traveled. Now, with the passage of time, we know in ISKCON, our demographics of our movement have really changed. From essentially being a white-bodied, movement, it has now moved in all colors and races, ethnicities, gender diversities, etc. Now, as we know, for the last 40 years or 50 years, no hippies are joining. There is no hippie movement in the world. So, many people choose to stay in their homes. Even the American boys and girls, the millennials, as we would say, are postponing marriage. They are postponing getting out and living in their own homes and living with their parents. In the breadth and length of the society, the complexity and diversity has changed. Same gender marriages have openly been professed. Many, many things are changing in our society, the values, morals. And now the same yardstick, things that brought us success in the past are guaranteed to be not working in the future. So obviously new approaches have now become an imperative. And while quantity was the thing of the past, I think it's more important now to consider quality as a very important factor. And as Prahladana Maharaj and Bhakti Prabhu Maharaj and all have been telling us for the last 2 years, churning them and, actually trying to get high-class devotees who are very knowledgeable and educated. Another thing I feel is there is hardly any focus on older devotees and individual care. Okay? So some of the points which I feel need attention is the personal spiritual growth of, devotees who have been around in the movement for some time. And so that's, I think, an area that is required. Now, there are family challenges. Sometimes we feel that just because somebody is chanting, 16 rounds and is initiated, he or she also knows how to, have a cordial grihastha relationship. In fact, I feel devotee marriages are more stressed out than karmis. Perhaps, I may be mistaken, but there are family challenges. There are elders in the house, and, at least in India, for people who are aspiring to, increase their bhakti, sometimes it's not that possible, especially when the husband is not Krishna conscious and the wife wants to take an active role in ISKCON. It becomes very difficult. So, also, I would say there are vast areas of the stretch of India and other places where the geographical remoteness can be very difficult. People who relocate because of jobs and they are then not able to find ISKCON centers close by, or people whom they can say that will take care of them like mentors. There are also people who move at a much slow pace, much slower than what we would desire that they go. And so it is a question, I am not ready for a guru yet I just, I need a mentor with whom I can regularly communicate. That's another area that needs a lot of attention. Also, I feel structured philosophical training is not happening, at least till I'm thinking before the purpose-driven yatra, where you form a uniform way of, you know, getting a very scientific and systematic training. Every devotee has his own style. It evolves while we welcome that diversity. But I think it's more or less becoming a numbers game. Prabhuji, I had 4,000 people coming for a program for Janmashtami. We distributed, 5,000 Bhagavad Gitas. Our Sunday feast program has approximately 900 people coming. How many of them are becoming devotees? How many of them are committing themselves? There is no qualitative data or even quantitative data to show that our preaching is really becoming any more effective than what it was decades ago. Okay, so many times lose confederation of devotees. Some devotees feel that after initiation they've joined the elite club, and so many of the initiated devotees then stay away, and their enthusiasm ends only as soon as they get their initiation. At least that's what I feel. The other problem is the one size fits all, where congregations don't have segregation of the quality of devotees or the stage of devotion. And so what we have is a general program. Sometimes very scholarly lectures are given. There are some people enthusiastically asking questions. And for the uninitiated or for the newcomers, it's very difficult to see whether they are comprehending, whether they are understanding what it is. Now, I'm not saying that there are no specific programs. Please forgive me if I sound like that. But mostly our programs are one size fits all. There may be small pockets of people dealing with these things, but otherwise, I'm sure you have a vast list, and I don't want to, get into this. There may be many more things that you senior devotees like yourself have observed. Now, again, this time I may just get brickbats and I don't know, very, very abrasive, opinions from all of you. Please forgive me before I say that. I'm a, corporate trainer. I am a part of one of the world's largest training outfits, which is in 165 countries. We train Fortune 500 leaders, and we also train 90% of the Fortune 100, companies, organizations. And these are the people who decide what you should wear, where you should invest your money, where you should stay, what entertainment you should have, what kind of possessions you must have, what are the fashion trends, all that. These are the people, I would say. See, in the in the earlier ancient world, philosophers were either kings or kings were philosophers. Today, practically, philosophy is dead, even in universities. Today's kings are the CEOs of Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. These are the people who rule, but they don't have a philosophy of what is the purpose behind earning vast amounts of money, and whether it is ethical, and with machine learning and artificial intelligence, the unconscious biases of the programmers themselves is going to create a havoc of untold proportions. There are no philosophers. No corporate, organization is even hiring philosophers. There should be a department of philosophy, and this is where I think ISKCON can make a huge difference. A department of philosophy where highly qualified ISKCON devotees take up corporate jobs and then, be guides and philosophers to big corporations. So there is a huge lacuna there. And I would think that when I travel, and which is very, very often, I take 200 flights in a year. In the last 5 years, barring COVID, I've probably flew to 1,000 flights going around to corporate. And I'm telling you, please believe me, this is not a view that I'm getting from a small tier 2 city in India, from Punjab. The awareness of ISKCON is very, very minimal. Believe me, when I go to institutes and even something happens, people are now talking Om Shanti. Om Shanti, the Brahma Kumaris. So, we thought that we have kind of a proprietary material, on the Vedic studies, on Jnana, Karma, Ashtanga and all that. But the other institutions are making huge inroads, I would think. And perhaps, even though we may be basking in the glory that we are very effective, I think somewhere, uh, and this is where, congregational preaching becomes so relevant. Sorry for, creating a long presentation on this, but I do feel that we seem to be in a slumber. There are vast regions, in India and rest of the world, and I could be wrong, but my understanding is that at least north of Delhi and maybe somewhat little bit Ludhiana or something, there is practically very little preaching happening, at least in the Hindi-speaking belt. I'm not sure about the northeast and all that. And so, and what are the reasons? Now, again, this may sound very, very controversial, but I just want to tell you, we seem to be good at making members for other institutions, as some very learned devotee said, that because the way we treat them, when they come, they are happy, but then when they see the response time and they see that, long, waiting periods for initiations, some of the rigidity that we exercise within our, and please don't feel I'm saying that we have to dilute anything. I don't have any, locus standi to say or even suggest anything like that. But there is infrequent communication. People want to know whether we belong here. People want to know if I have a friend who cares for me. Do I have someone to whom I can approach? And this is the purpose why I think Sripad Pradhanand Maharaj has been very, very, insistent on this purpose-driven yatra. A very systematic way of inculcating, Krishna consciousness in congregations. Now, I do also believe, at least when I speak about India, many senior Grihastha devotees must now consider relocating to smaller towns and tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities. I think Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, they have a huge amount of talented devotees who are actually being underutilized, I would say. They are not able to, use their vast potential. Okay, so this is something we should definitely, advocate. And I want to just tell you now about my Amritsar Yatra here, how it all began. After 22 years in, ISKCON, ISKCON Chowpatty, Sri Radha Gopinath. My birth was in Radha Rasbihari Temple in 1983. My spiritual birth, I would say, was in Radha Rasbihari Temple, ISKCON, Juhu. And after a few years, then we moved to the Chowpatty congregation. And after 22 years in Mumbai, I actually shifted in 2004 to Amritsar. Now, there was an existing temple. Things were not that functional though. And Navyogendra Maharaj has a center here. And at that time, I think they were also struggling. There weren't enough devotees or resources in temple. So just maintaining the temple itself was quite a challenge. And after 1 year of intense struggle, my wife and I, we would go house to house, carrying a laptop, carrying a projector, carrying a screen with Sridhar Maharaj before he left from Mumbai and went away to, Canada and then came back to Mayapur. He gave me his screen, portable screen. So I used to carry a projector, carry a big, music system, and a laptop. And my wife used to get the mridanga. She used to play the mridanga, and we would go and do programs from home to home. People would invite us, and there, while we were doing a program, people behind would be sipping Coca-Cola, and having their own light banter. So 1 year we struggled like this. It was a very intense struggle, and we practically got, no success. So it was a very standard thing. Go there, do kirtan, show Krishna vision, have a small talk, and then, invite people to come to our home, because there was no place where I was actually regularly going. So it was basically at home. And people would invite us, for their, son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter's birthdays, just as a, added flavor to have some pious entertainment. So that is how for 1 year my wife and I really struggled. So even at the end of 1 year, we hardly made any progress at all. Okay. Then in the year 2005, my Gurudev came to our home, and we welcomed our deity Sri Radha Gokulanand. This is how our home temple. This is where we started our preaching center from our home. So these are our home deities, and so so the first signs of progress were our neighbor kids in the neighboring houses. 2, 3 kids started to come and they started to trickle one by one. They started coming, and we would do a daily morning program, evening program, 7 days a week, and Bhagavatam class for about half an hour in the morning, and this very simple evening Sandhya Aratik, 15 minutes of talk and some snack prasadam, and then send them away. So 2 people became 4. We have 2 sons who are now 37 and 38, and they were in Mumbai. They were doing their graduation at that time, and then by the time I started preaching regularly, my sons went away to US for their education, and so they would call us up and say, how many people are coming? So I said, 4. I said, really, 4 people? Wow. And then it became 4 to 10 and then 16. And they would say, unbelievable. Dad, I hope you're not lying. So that's how, in a very humble way, this whole thing started, basically. And so this is just a picture of the early days. And then, as we kept on, conducting programs, more and more people. My wife would cook for 60, 70 people sometimes. And we hardly had any resources because, and I'll show you a slide there. For 10 long years, I did not do any steady job or any work. But then, when you don't work, then all the finances get disturbed. If you're a grihastha and have bills to pay. So for 10 years, I did just brief stints of work, but otherwise I was constantly there preaching, And I just invite some devotees from Chapati or some other place and have some small seminars in our home. There was a bi-weekly counselor meeting happening, Bhagavad Gita courses, all this in our home. And then giving them, basic home worship seminar, things, everything started at our home. And we were hungry. So any devotee willing to come, to Amritsar. So, we would just invite them, because, and then so for instance, when Mataji would come, they call the, ladies in the neighborhood and all and have her preach to them. Okay. And so little by little, we had some very, some really exalted devotees coming and, doing programs at our place, and any excuse to try and, enroll devotees. So city walks, Amritsar is a historic city. So we got one of these historians. You can see this man here, over here. He's a historian. He is an expert on the freedom struggle, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and, the Golden Temple and, everything. So we would call him and then, tell everyone, please wear a dhoti, kurta and come, wear a tilak, so that people in the town see us, and we would go on city walks. So, crazy things we tried had nothing to do with, Krishna consciousness, but then we involved them, somehow tried to get more and more people to join. Then one day, a big crowd from Ukraine, Krishna Priya Prabhu and all, we took them to the Indo-Pak border. We had huge Sankirtan there. So any opportunity, we got an opportunity to go to, the army cantonment and then, do programs over there. With some devotees there, and then slowly, little by little, started to encourage people to have small deities at home. And so this is His Grace Indranuj Prabhu, the ISKCON Amritsar Temple President, and then if you recall in the 2007-8 and all, World Holy Name Day used to be a very big thing. So we would.
Is not there.
Wow. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. This is an absolute blunder. Please forgive me. Okay, just give me a second. Please give me a second. I won't take too long. I'll just tell you about this. So see, 1 minute. Just from the pictures, yeah? Yeah. So see, Sripad Raghunatha Maharaj came over, and that was kind of the beginning of our Amritsar preaching going well. Now this is a picture of our home deities from where our preaching actually entirely started. Yeah, sorry, I'm so sorry. Just give me a second. Let me just get organized here. Please, 1 second. Yeah, please suggest that you can see my screen now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are our home deities. And then, as I said, slowly we started having our home programs, gathering small congregations and doing programs, and then some getting devotees to do some small home worship seminars, etc. And for the Matajis, whenever Mataji came 4 times to Amritsar over the years, and she was there to do that. We had some very nice devotees who actually it gave a great boost to our Krishna consciousness and preaching in Amritsar. And as I said, these city walks were going on, historic, trying to enroll people and getting them to join slowly, small groups really, just walking around the city early morning, and then so anything that would kind of attract people. So Ukraine devotees came. They was a massive boost, and we had a lot of local people coming and helping, and then going to army whenever possible, and doing these programs, having small home deity celebrations in different people's homes. And then the World Holy Name Day, we celebrated with a lot of pomp and 5,000, 10,000 bead bags and all, selling books at the same time. So and this is a very regular feature. Actually, every month we have a regular book distribution program, and this is going on quite successfully. And so we had no center. So what we would do is all the local Hindu temples, we would just go to some Hindu temple and then, do things. At that time, even the Amritsar facility was in the walled city, it wasn't that big. And so we were preaching in the civil lines, and therefore we would go around and, do these programs and all. And then, Krishna smiled at us, and, one of the very wealthy persons in the city, he gave us his own, one huge property for 1 year. He said, I'll give it to you for 1 year. You do preaching here for 1 year. That was 15 years ago. He hasn't still taken it back from us. So, it's in a very, elite area of Amritsar with ample parking. And so that was then kind of beginning. And that is when, a lot of people started to come. And within a couple of weeks, we had to break off the main wall so that, we took permission from the owners that can we knock off this wall because, people are not coming. And then again, as I said, every opportunity to invite devotees. Sunday feast program here in our, preaching center happens in the evening, 7 to 9 on Sunday. And then outside our preaching center, you see on the left side is our preaching center. We have a very decent, lawn, a green lawn there. And so we started doing our festivals here, and then we moved to huge banquet facilities with 4,000, 5,000 people. And then we realized that that was just an ego trip. It wasn't really required. It wasn't actually translating into, too much. So then again, we scaled it down and brought it back to our preaching center. So soon a lot of people started joining. We started having our own small, exhibits for Janmashtami and all that. And this is a very successful feature, as it is probably for all of you. We have, Deepdan for 2 months, because we really can't accommodate all the homes. It starts 15 days before Kartik and ends 15 days after Kartik. And this is an excellent opportunity to go to people's homes and, do those things. Now, I'll tell you what actually worked for us very much. A very lean model, minimal expenses, absolutely, no fixed costs, like rentals or electricity expense or any expense for security, nothing of that sort. So literally, whatever meager collection comes in the collection box is just utilized for the prasadam. And we make prasadam for 300 to 400 people. Summers it is more like 400, sometimes even more. And winters it is, 275 to 300 people. So absolutely no expenses other than, because the landlord, the person who gave us that preaching center, He doesn't charge us any rent, any electricity expense, or any property tax. So that 1 year thing has now come to 15 years. And I don't think it's anywhere close to taking the property back from us. So we just continue to be there all the time. So no capital expenses really. It is a program of the congregation, by the congregation, for the congregation. We don't have any DTs. So every Sunday, we actually get the DTs from different homes. And and then we set up a beautiful altar, and then we have a Sunday feast program. Then evening the DTs go back. I saw that in early days in ISKCON Central New Jersey. I saw in many places this kind of a model. So that's what we just copied actually. And there is no emphasis on Lakshmi collection. So nobody, I believe, honestly, once again, my apologies. The moment a temple starts, preaching stops. This is what I feel, because then sometimes, at least in the smaller temples, because just running a temple itself becomes a daunting task. Big temples, of course, no problems. But so we never ask for Lakshmi except for the very fixed devotees who give a monthly contribution. Never ask. And so when people come for days and weeks and months, then they get very perturbed and they ask us, "Can I do something? Can we do something for you?" Normally, wherever we go, they ask for Lakshmi. Here, you all don't talk about Lakshmi. So literally, I'm telling you, for the past 2007 onwards till 2000, almost 16 years and 17 years counting, we've never ever had shortage of funds. So really, Krishna supplies. You don't have to ask anyone. When you don't ask, people volunteer and they give it. So we really don't have problem of Lakshmi at all. So as I told you, very simple deity worship, turn by turn. Some of the senior devotees, they perform the puja archana and all that, and it's very disciplined. Amritsar is a bit of a, I would say, unregulated, rough place where most spiritual programs in other places, the people are talking behind, there's commotion, children crying, all that. Our programs are extremely timely and extremely disciplined. People know the moment they enter, the placements are done that, here you can't be talking when the lecture is going on, you can't be answering phones, mobiles have to be shut. We are very particular about these things, and people know that they can actually adjust their watch according to our program times, because so we actually follow a response standard to make sure programs start bang on time and they end on time, so that it's 7 to 9 followed by prasadam. So there is there is a Gaur Arti, there is Kirtan, and there is a Pravachan. Goes off very smoothly, and question answers. So now, based on the maturity of devotees that come, we have actually 3 different groups. We call them the Golok Dham group, the Govardhan group, and the Preaching Center group. Okay. Now, depending on how much spiritual progress people have done, they are invited for different programs. So it's not, sometimes programs are by invitation. You can't just walk in. Sunday feast program, of course, is open to all regardless. And Sunday morning program again is for about 100 people, which is very limited and only by invitation. We have programs, Aratik and Bhagavatam class. It's a 2-hour program, or sometimes runs to 2.5 hours on Sunday morning in various homes. Home programs happen quite regularly. Sometimes even other than our regular programs, once a week somewhere. And then there are, of course, special study classes on Wednesdays and Fridays. Wednesdays we have Bhagavad Gita, and Fridays evening time 7:30 for 1 hour we have Srimad Bhagavatam. These are classes only for the very serious devotees. So as you can see, that one size fits all doesn't really work, and therefore we've kind of made it very tailor-made for different congregations. I just want to check, please, is Shri Vallabh Prabhu here already? Shri Vallabh Prabhu, are you here?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We just got the message, Prabhuji, that he is in the hospital to take care of his father-in-law.
Oh.
So he cannot join today. Bhakti
So
Prabhu
then-
Maharaj sent a message. Some medical emergency kind.
Oh, so sorry to hear that. So then I'll just end in about 10 minutes or so. And then we can take questions for 10 minutes, and then sorry about that. Bhakti Prabhu Maharaj, do you have any suggestion then to?
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. What you propose is good, yes. Let's go with that, and some questions at the end can end early. Thank you.
Sure, sure. So what I was saying is that let there be different kinds of even in small congregations, different kinds of special study classes depending on their maturity. Now these are some of the programs which are done very regularly. Bhakti Vriksha is sometimes not more than 7-8 people, or even less sometimes, and sometimes it's about up to 10 people. We also have a very, regimented counselee meeting, which happens 2 to 3 weeks, depending if there are festivals, and sometimes it may get delayed by a week, where we discuss Vaishnava etiquette. Every time we take up one Vaishnava etiquette, and then it is discussed in a very systematic way. Then devotee couples, because it's a 100% Grihastha congregation. So there are senior devotees who have regular one-on-ones with devotee couples to monitor their progress. Sometimes they even have family problems, home problems. Sometimes there may be a unhelpful behavior of one of the persons, and they would want to discuss. So all those things are done. Then time to time I do conduct seminars. Seminars are not only about devotion, but it's also about performance improvement, sometimes trust building. It's about the 7 habits of highly effective people. So different kinds of seminars, because I do believe that spiritually they do get a lot of stuff, but sometimes how to live, a disciplined life and all those things also requires to be done. So not all the seminars that I conduct are purely in the purview of Krishna consciousness. Some of them are just to make them better human beings, etc. And so we have these things. We also have some 3 to 4 day lecture series by some visiting devotees. I told you about book distribution already. These are some annual events which we have, like most temples would probably be having. An annual 7-day lecture series on Ramayana or Srimad Bhagavatam. I think this is the 6th or 7th year in running that this is going on. I'll show you a picture of a big annual fire sacrifice that we have. And then we have 2 yatras. One is a small yatra of 100 to 125 devotees of the Amritsar, serious devotees. And one, of course, we attend the ISKCON Chopati Yatra, to whom we are in that way affiliated, at least, through my Guru Maharaj. So you can see that in our lawn of our preaching center, we have a very big, this is a kind of, endeavor to unite all the, devotees, even some senior, elders, their family members and all. So we have a yajna, very elaborate and very nicely done. This year we had a Narsimha yajna, and we called, Loknath Gaur Prabhu from Vrindavan. He had a very big, he's from the Madhva Sampradaya, but he's also very, familiar with our ISKCON, and he also does seva at Krishna Balaram temple. So this is a regular feature. We've been doing it for 6-7 years now. And we go for our yatras, small yatras, close by, sometimes to, Rishikesh, or many times to Vrindavan, Ujjain. We all went to Ujjain. Prema Bhakti Prabhu knows about it. And many other places, right? Prema Bhakti Prabhu is here. He has come several times to Amritsar to preach. Now, there is one unique congregational program which I think we can take a little credit, a minuscule credit. And that is something we call the Krishna Leela Mahotsav. You know what we do? We get all the congregation devotees to bring their home deities together in our preaching center. And we have a 35 feet long altar. So all the devotees of the congregation who have deities, they all bring their deities. And so you can see this is one end of our preaching center. That is the middle, and this is the other end. So it's a huge altar, and we have, very elaborate, bhoga offering. And so we found that this is an extremely nice way of uniting the congregation. So they all bring their home deities, and we worship about 100 deities, together on one altar. And people are euphoric, actually. Devotees get really very happy to see, their own deities, and then they call their relatives, and, they call their friends to brag, so to say, the see my DT, see how it looks, So this has worked really well for us. I don't know if anywhere in ISKCON this festival is being done, but we found this extremely powerful. And, sometimes we have senior devotees coming and, addressing. Like one particular year, Malti Mataji came and she, addressed the congregation on this festival. Okay? Now, other opportunities that we find is every Sunday we make an announcement in our preaching center. If you have any birthdays coming, if there are any programs you want in memory of your departed parents, or your in-laws, please look at us as a resource. We'll come there and you tell us if you want 25 devotees, 30 devotees, 40 devotees. Also, after sometimes a bereavement, as you know, in our Indian culture, we have the Chautha ceremony in Amritsar. So many times we are invited to do programs. So instead of a traditional ritualistic pujari coming and doing, we have ISKCON devotees going there. So we find that bereavements and prayer meetings are a great source for outreach for us. So that's something we have been doing very successfully. Now, in Punjab, there is a tradition, at least now it is not that prevalent, but it used to be earlier, that pre-wedding, some elder of the family is to give a shiksha, session where, the to-be bride and groom would sit along with the families and say a grandfather, a grandmother, or some uncle, somebody learned would speak to the children and, the couple who is getting married and say how you should live a grihastha life. So we have kind of fine-tuned that really well. And ever so often we are invited to people who don't come to our preaching center, but they've heard that these people do a fabulous job, pre-wedding. And these pious entertainment, these people, they want to have their, in Amritsar, in Punjab, they want to have their cocktails at dinner also. They want to have, some pious thing to show that they are doing a very ritualist, a ceremony. So we are happy to go there. We don't mind. You know why? Because that is where we pick up a lot of people. I'll give you one example. Some 11 years ago, my elder son got married, okay? And we had a Vedic ceremony. We called devotees from Radha Gopinath temple in Chapati ISKCON to do the ceremony. They do it in a very nice way. So it was an afternoon wedding, but afternoon weddings in Amritsar, Punjab are unheard. Because marriages, they start at, 11 o'clock at night and they go until 4 o'clock in the morning. So, some people, Rukmini Krishna Prabhu may know all these things because, so we had an afternoon wedding and there were a few gate crashers. Gate crashers means uninvited people. They were just curious to know what is happening. These devotees, how do they get married? And do you know that I have at least a couple of families who joined because they came for the marriage uninvited and then became devotees. So when we have our congregation weddings, we are very particular about having very nice, Vedic style, ISKCON style wedding. And so that time we really invite a lot of people. And so we've got quite a few devotees coming to our congregation because of that. And there is a big temple here, a Durgana temple. It's a very big temple and it's actually a pure Vaishnav temple. There are no demigod pictures there. In the Parikrama, there is also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and, Jagai Madhai, so it's a very authentic kind of Hindu Vaishnav temple. So they have been inviting us for a couple of years. We actually went there. They have a broadcast over 500,000 viewers in 4 states, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, and sometimes even J&K. So we did programs there for a couple of years, every month one program. So that worked well for us because a lot of people joined from there as well, for us. And we have a small group of Pandav Sena. There are farmhouses in Amritsar. Some very wealthy, devotees, they own that. So these devotees go there. There is a swimming pool there. So within the purview of Krishna consciousness and under the guidance of some very senior devotees, these children, they kind of have those things. There are kirtan mandalis and mini kirtan melas. Okay. Now, caring for devotees in small groups. Now, this is the purpose-driven yatra thing. We have senior devotees who have very regular, programs monitoring small groups of 8 to 10 people. where every aspect of their material life, spiritual life, their chanting, all that is discussed very deeply. Yeah, well. Then setting up home altars, handling family challenges, as I said, sometimes there's a discord among couples. There are home problems, elderly people. So those things. And most people have small, modest temples. Few have very nice temples. So we have these appearance days in each person's house. So home programs also happen pretty regularly. Now, these are some opportunities which we lack actually, and we want to really. We don't have any permanent full-time devotees here. I think our outreach programs, preaching in school, is woefully inadequate. We still don't have shloka recitation for young children. We don't have anyone taking care of elder devotees and young children, like a fun day feast or something, and even taking care of some irregular congregation members. So if they leak out, it's a hard time trying to get them. The other big need is now for us to in a very structured and scientific way, implement the purpose-driven yatra within our congregation. So having learned these things over the years from Radhanand Maharaj and Bhakti Prabhu Maharaj and the others, we are now initiating all these discussions with our congregation to make sure, we have all the metrics that are required. For instance, letting people know why it is important to do what they are doing, letting them know the purpose, making sure that even these casual devotees know that there is someone here to take care of us, that they belong here, to let people know about discipleship, about membership, about ISKCON ministries, and about the preaching, and help them develop that conviction that ultimately you have to dedicate your life for Krishna consciousness. So, Hare Krishna, and thank you for very patiently, hearing me out. And as I mentioned, when it comes to understanding stitching up that ALP, we'll be having a session on 28th of April, where I'll be taking you through how you will be filling your ALP application form and other things, and the nitty gritties of actually going through your ALP project, and stitching up all the different levels of this. So thank you very much, and I think we'll just stop here. So Radhanand Maharaj is here. If you all have any questions, you can please ask him.